Welcome to this week's edition of Outdoors Online, a weekly webcast produced by the North Dakota Game and Fish Department. I'm your host, Tom Jensen. My guest this week is Patrick Isakson. Pat is a non-game biologist with Game and Fish. We're going to talk about how to interact with baby animals that you might find this time of year.
That's right, Tom. This time of year, late May and early June is probably the time of year where we see the most baby animals hit the ground.
Okay, with a lot of wide open spaces, I guess, in North Dakota, it's inevitable that kids and joggers and bikers and people are going to start finding some of these babies.
Yeah, this is the time of the year when things like birds start to leave the nest and they start, fluttering around on the ground, so they're a lot more visible.
Okay, what are the most common babies that people might run into in North Dakota?
Well, I would say the most common ones are probably the birds that nest in town, like robins and grackles and things like that. Also baby bunnies and some of the smaller mammals you'll start to see hit the ground now too.
Outskirts of town, people might run into fawns and things like that.
That's right, and some of the more unique things like raccoons and skunks that you may run into this time of year as well.
Are those some of the most unusual?
Those are probably the most unusual. Another thing that might be hitting the ground, depending on what part of the state you're in, is our baby antelope.
This might be an unusual question, but if you stumble onto a baby skunk, which could very well happen, what should you do other than run the other way?
Our recommendation is with baby skunks and with all baby animals is just leave them alone. All right.
That brings me to my next question. What are the most important things to remember if somebody, say, finds a baby bird?
Sure. A lot of times people think that those are abandoned because they don't see an adult near them, but most of the time mom has tried to hide the baby in the tall grass, and you may have come across it, and just remember to leave it alone and don't pick it up.
All right. Patrick, is it as an old wives' tale that and you hear it all the time, if you handle a baby animal, that human scent's going to rub off and mom's going to abandon it anyway? Is that true?
No, that's not true. It is a wives' tale. We do lots of research with animals, and you handle them for a short amount of time and get them back into their habitat, and they'll do just fine. The important thing to remember is to not take it home and try to feed it and take care of it yourself. They do much better on their own.
What if you're taking your dog for a walk, and it happens all the time, he sniffs out a young of the year animal? How do you avoid that situation?
Sure, the best thing to do this time of year is probably keep your dog on a leash, especially if you're in kind of a rural area where there's more tall grass or cover. That's where you're going to find baby animals. So if you can try to keep your dog out of that for this time of year, that's probably your best bet.
What about if you run across an animal that you're positive is orphaned? Mother bird, even a deer that gets hit by a car or something like that, that's nurturing a fawn. What should you do then?
I would have the same advice for that person as I would for an animal that you don't think is abandoned. We don't have a system in place to harbor baby animals, especially ones that are injured. So we recommend that you leave it where it is. If you have the opportunity to move it to some cover to get it out of the sun or elements like that, we like that, but otherwise just leave it where it is.
There are, in fact, laws that govern this type of thing.
Yes, that is one of the things that we will point out to people, is that it is illegal to have a wild animal in your possession. So.
All right, so bottom line is basically just leave them alone.
Just leave them alone and things will work out the best.
All right, thanks, Patrick.
Thank you.
Now that summer is in full swing, boaters and anglers are making good use of our North Dakota lakes and rivers. You're reminded, though, to practice good safety habits while on the water. It's recommended all boaters wear a personal flotation device while on the water. And remember, it is a law that children ages 10 and under must wear a life jacket. Also, jet ski operators or persons being towed on skis, tubes, boards, and other devices are required to wear a life jacket. Regulations to help ensure safe boating this summer are found in the North Dakota Fishing Guide, or for a more comprehensive listing of water safety guidelines, get a copy of the North Dakota Boat and Water Safety Guide or the Boat North Dakota Education Book. These guides are available online at the Game and Fish website at gf.nd.gov, by email at ndgf@nd.gov, or at a local Game and Fish Department office. For Pat Isakson and the rest of the staff here at North Dakota Game and Fish, thanks for joining us for Outdoors Online. We'll see you again next week.